except for one crucial habit. Body lice do not live on your body at all. You are standing at the mouth of a cave, and the wind is trying to kill you. Not with claws, not with teeth. With cold, your skin is almost bare. Somewhere far back along your family line, your ancestors lost the thick fur that every other large animal around you still wears without a second thought. The horse has a coat. The bison has a coat. The wolf circling the tree line was born wrapped in one. It never has to think about. You were born naked, so how are you still alive out here? The answer is draped over your shoulders. It is the hide of an animal that used to wear it better than you do, and the story of how that hide got there is one of the strangest detective stories in all of human prehistory, because the clothes themselves are almost never found. Think about that for a second. We have stone tools that are millions of years old. We have skulls, footprints, cave paintings, the burnt bones of ancient meals. But cloth and leather rot. Skin, fur, plant fiber, sinew thread. They fall apart in a few years in most soil, leaving nothing behind. So the single most important survival technology your species ever invented left almost no trace at all. For most of history, that meant nobody could answer a simple question. When did humans start wearing clothes? Then, in 2003, a team of geneticists at the Max Planck Institute did something clever. Ralph Kittler, Manfred Kaiser, and Mark Stoneking did not go looking for ancient clothing. They went looking for lice. Here's the trick. Humans carry two kinds of lice. Head lice, which live and lay their eggs in the hair on your scalp, and body lice, which are almost identical, except for one crucial habit. Body lice do not live on your body at all. They live in your clothing. They cling to the fibers of what you wear and only crawl onto your skin to feed. No clothing, no home. Which means body lice simply could not exist until humans invented something for them to live in. Do you see where this is going? If you can find the moment body lice split off from head lice and became their own separate creature, you have found the moment clothing was born. So the team read the DNA. They used what is called a molecular clock, a way of counting the slow, steady mutations that build up in a species over time, like counting tree rings to estimate how long ago two lineages went their separate ways. Their answer was staggering. Body lice, and therefore clothing, appeared somewhere around 100,000 years ago, and possibly much earlier. A later study led by David Reed at the University of Florida in 2011 pushed the date back even further, to roughly 170,000 years ago. Long before your ancestors ever walked out of Africa. Long before the great migrations across the world. Sit with that. The first clothes may be older than every human who has ever left the continent where our species began. And we know it not from a single scrap of surviving cloth, but from the tiny insect that learned to live inside it. Now let's reconstruct a day. Because knowing when tells you nothing about how. You have killed an animal or found one already dead. What you want is not just the meat, it is the skin. But a fresh hide is useless. Leave it a few days and it rots and stiffens into something like a board. So you go to work. You lay it out, and with a sharpened stone edge you begin to scrape. You scrape away the fat, the flesh, the inner tissue, over and over, for hours, until the hide is clean and thin and soft enough to wrap around a shivering body. We know you did this because the tools survived even when the clothing did not. The archaeologist Ian Gilligan has spent years studying stone hide scrapers and how they multiply exactly when the climate turns cold. When the ice advances, the scrapers appear in greater numbers. When the world warms, they fade away. The tools track the temperature. Clothing, it turns out, was a direct answer to the cold. But a wrapped hide is a blanket, not a garment. To make real clothing, fitted, sewn, shaped to the body, you need one more invention. You need the needle. And here, the evidence finally becomes something you can hold. In Denisova Cave in Siberia, archaeologists found a needle made of bird bone with a carefully drilled eye, around 50,000 years old. A tool for pulling thread through hide, for stitching separate pieces into a single tailored shape. This is the difference between throwing a skin over your shoulders and actually building a coat. Then look at a grave. At a site called Sungir, in Russia, dating to roughly 34,000 years ago, archaeologists uncovered burials covered in thousands upon thousands of tiny beads, carved from mammoth ivory. The beads were not scattered. They lay in neat rows, following the outline of the bodies, across the arms, down the legs, around the head. They had been sewn, one by one, onto fitted clothing that has long since rotted away. The clothes are gone, but their shape is still there, drawn in beads. And at Dzudzuana Cave, in the country of Georgia, a researcher named Denisova Cave found something even more delicate. Fibers of wild flax, 30,000 years old, some of them twisted, some of them dyed in colors: black, gray, turquoise, pink thread, colored thread made from a plant, deep in the last ice age. So now put it together. What did clothing actually do for your ancestors? The obvious answer is warmth, and that is true. A naked human body starts to fail in the cold fast. You cannot grow fur in a single lifetime, and you certainly cannot grow it in a single winter. Clothing was the fur you could put on and take off at will. But here's the part that changes everything. Clothing did not just keep humans warm. It let them go where no naked ape could ever survive. Think about the map. Your species evolved in the warmth of Africa. Bare skin works beautifully there. It lets you sweat. It lets you run down prey under a blazing sun without overheating. Losing your fur was an advantage in the heat. But it locked you out of half the planet, the cold half, the mountains, the northern plains, the frozen edge of the world. Clothing broke the lock. Wrapped in the fur of other animals, a tropical creature could suddenly walk into a Siberian winter and live. Humans carried a portable climate on their backs. They wore Africa's warmth into the ice. And they kept walking, into Europe, across the frozen bridge into a new world, until there was almost nowhere left on Earth that they had not reached. The naked ape conquered the cold planet by stealing the coats of everyone else who lived there. And then something even stranger happened. Look again at those thousands of ivory beads at Sungir. Beading takes time. Some estimates suggest each bead took close to an hour to make. Nobody sews thousands of hours of labor onto a garment just to stay warm. Those beads were a message. They said something about who this person was: rank, wealth, belonging, beauty. So somewhere in the deep past, clothing quietly stopped being only a tool for survival. It became a language, a way of saying, without a single word, this is who I am, and this is where I stand. The moment humans could cover the body, they began to decorate it, to send signals with it, to read each other by it. Which brings us all the way back to you. You do not think of yourself as wearing ancient technology. But every single morning, you perform the same act your ancestors invented in the depth of the Ice Age. You choose a covering for your bare, furless skin. Part of that choice is still about warmth, about the wind and the cold. But part of it, be honest, is about the message. The color, the cut, what it says about you before you open your mouth. You are still doing exactly what they did at Sungir, sewing meaning onto your own body. You just call it getting dressed. So the next time the cold bites and you reach for a coat, remember what you are actually holding. Not fashion, not fabric. The oldest survival machine your species ever built. So old we can only date it by the lice that learned to live inside it. So powerful it carried a naked tropical animal to the far frozen ends of the earth. You are still standing at the mouth of that cave, with the wind trying to kill you. You just call it a wardrobe now.